Well, when we,
Tell me when.
at first we were like, no pictures, and then we're like,
That's how me and my wife were. We were like
Yeah.
really strict in the beginning, and then it was like,
Okay.
and so like, and also like, to try to
I know.
Good morning. So live from Beacon Sanctuary in Summit, New Jersey, on the land of the Lenni Lenape. It's so good to see everyone. Thank you. My name is George Faison, he, him, his, and I'm a member of this, our shared community, since before 2010, which is another way of saying I don't remember really when I became a member, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you're here too. So welcome to each and every one of you. Since last June, a year ago, I've had the honor to co-lead our Widening the Circle Committee. Many of you may be asking just what is the Widening the Circle Committee? Good question. 2 years ago, this congregation voted to affirm the 8th principle. By the way, just this week, the 200th UU congregation voted to do the same. So this principle called on us as a congregation and as individuals to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. At that time, I knew this implied a continuing dedication to our social justice work in the world, our outward presence. But inherent in this affirmation was an obligation to look inward, to examine and evaluate our structures institutionally within our walls, our habits and ways of doing things, to see how these had become and continue to be limiting, to be impediments to the voices and participation of all of our community. To look inward. To discover, encourage, and initiate change to those practices that hold us back from truly becoming a beloved community. To bring the 8th principle to fruition within these walls and our hearts. This is the work of the Widening the Circle Committee. We currently have 3 seats open on our committee as we head into the new year. If this work calls to you, if you have further questions, if you have a desire to serve with us, I'll be available after service for a few minutes to answer any questions. Please look for me. And for those of you who, there will be opportunities virtually in the coming weeks to ask similar questions. We hope to hear from you. So thank you for being here today. And I also want to remind you to get home as you can. At 1 o'clock, we have our annual meeting today. It's on Zoom, once again, but you must register, and all the information to do so is in your inbox. So great to see you here, and it'll be great to see you there. Thank you.
From rainbow flags and leather rhinestone-studded vests, as the feather boas leave a rainbow trail on the streets this month. With emotion contained, or glitter bombs that explode from your animated jazz hands, whether offered in a whisper or sung with full bravado. Whether the light, tender touch of love incarnate or steady hand of the ally in solidarity. Give us now the light to live with a pride that affirms the worth and dignity within the diversity of humanity, of the whole person, the collective of communities. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, questioning, cisgender, intersex, and heterosexual, asexual, allies, aromantic, agender. May we bow to that light with a humble awareness that we be not judge of worth, but rather fortunate witness to the ferocity of spirit and tenacity of life. So we kindle the light with a promise to let it shine in honor of pride for all siblings of this earth. We love you, we love us. Shine on.
Most people who take up meditation start with wanting a quiet space and a quiet room. But the truth is, you can actually meditate anywhere at any time. And as your meditation practice deepens and you develop moment-to-moment continuity of awareness, you can actually do it anywhere at any time, in the grocery store, with somebody honking behind you. All those are opportunities to be truly aware and present. Yes. So we are going to practice today moment-to-moment continuity of awareness with a beautiful musical meditation. So what you want to do first is get comfortable. You want to be in a position that you can hold for a period of about 5 minutes. Settle yourself in. You can close your eyes or gently gaze at a spot in front of you. And first, as we begin, bring attention to your ears and just spend a few seconds being aware of the sounds around you. Perhaps you hear air conditioning, faraway sounds, nearby sounds. You're suspending the analytical part of your brain for just a few moments and receiving auditory sensations. This is the acuity of our ears, and sounds fall upon them. We are not saying we like the sound or we dislike the sound, we're just present to the sound. And as we are present to the sound, I also invite you to tune into whatever sensations or emotions might be arising in your body. So as the music will start playing, stay present to what is falling on your ears and whatever is arising for you. When the music ends, I invite you to stay still with your eyes closed and once again scanning to see what is arising. Let us begin with our musical meditation. From your continued place of centeredness, scanning once again your body, Scanning whatever has arisen for you and accepting it. Perhaps you recognized the tune. Perhaps the words came to you. Whatever it is, accepting where you are. And now gently, slowly allowing your breath to deepen. Returning to awareness of the sounds around you. Faraway sounds, nearby sounds. Taking a deep breath in and gently opening your eyes.
Our first reading today comes from Reverend Peter Friedrichs. Sense of blessing. I know what a blessing looks like, and I'm not talking about a picture of the Pope placing his cupped hands on a child's head. It looks like the midnight delivery of a stunned and wide-eyed Indian orphan to her adoptive parents at baggage claim carousel in Terminal E of Logan Airport. And a full moon rising over Mount Katahdin on an autumn night so clear and cold it makes your teeth ache. I know what a blessing smells like too. The head of your month-old niece thrust into your arms by your dead tired sister who wants nothing more than a few hours of uninterrupted sleep. And the aroma of fresh baked bread that catches you off guard as you walk past a bakery, head bowed against the cold and grief on the way to your grandmother's funeral. A blessing tastes like the cherry popsicles you used to split with your dad on the front stoop just before bedtime in summer, when the light was soft and the pavement was still warm under your toes. The deafening roar of water cascading into an Ithacan gorge is the sound a blessing makes. And to the silence of the pre-dawn forest, when the insects have gone to ground and birds have not yet begun to bid the morning welcome. And I know, thank God I know, how a blessing feels. Like walking out of the shadow of a skyscraper or your own fear and feeling the sun on your face for the first time in forever. And waking up every morning next to the person who saved your life. Our next reading from Reverend Gretchen Haley. Each week in worship, I recognize and honor our tangled blessing. That is, the way that life tends to arrive not distinctly as joy or grief, but rather all mixed up. So often people tell me about the ways that in the midst of their cancer treatments, they knew love and community better than they'd ever known their whole life. Or how their love for their new baby is mixed with grief for their loved one who has died and won't be able to meet that child. In my own life, I know this truth all too well. My children are adopted from foster care, which means that one mother's worst day became another mother's, that is, my best day. I think that somehow, amazingly, the greatest blessing can come in the midst of the most terrible loss. It doesn't justify the pain or make it okay. It simply makes joy also possible. Love also possible. And sometimes our task is simply to be awake and with a grateful heart to see the also true story of the good in the midst of grief, the blessing in the midst of suffering. Herein ends our readings.
this, yeah, good. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Robin. Hi, I'm Jeannie Siegel. She, her. I'm a chaplain here at Beacon. And Beacon chaplains, our function is to spread the sense of belonging at the congregation, to extend the spiritual care of our community. And one of the rituals of spiritual care is our candle lighting ceremony. Together, we light candles of joy and sorrow and gratitude. And this morning, we'll start by lighting a candle of joy for June, which is Pride Month, and especially for this Sunday, which is Pride Sunday. A candle of sorrow for the continuing gun violence, oppression, and economic uncertainty throughout the world. And a candle of thanksgiving for Chad Petrove's mother, who had a heart attack this week, but is slowly healing day by day. For this and so much more, we invite you to come forward and light a candle in our sanctuary or at home or wherever you may be. I'm Missy Rogers, she, her, hers, and a member of Beacon. I came to Unitarian Universalism in 2014 in California. It had been decades since I had given any consideration to my own spiritual life, and it seemed like the right time to re-engage that part of my life. From the very first UU service I attended, I knew that was the place for me to discover what a spiritual life might look like for me at that stage of my life. In 2016, I moved from California to New Jersey, knowing only one person and a couple of their friends. Top priority was finding a UU church that would be my new spiritual home. Beacon was it. I needed care, and Beacon was the place that felt like there was enough community and enough love. It felt like I could take what I needed from the community without draining it. However, I knew the best way for me to connect with others was through volunteering and working side by side with folks. I'm one of those people who tend to avoid things like coffee hour. So I reached out to Emily and shared my story and my desire to get involved in small ways. Little did I know at the time that I was playing into one of Emily's greatest strengths, connecting people. It takes time, of course, rooting yourself in relationships. It takes intention and attention. The Beacon community and I, we gave both. Beacon is for me a cornerstone, a place that is solid enough to allow me to learn, make mistakes, repair mistakes, grow, heal, be challenged, be vulnerable, be bold. There are not a lot of places in this world that allow for all those. And so I give to Beacon. I give time and I give money. And why I wanted to co-chair the annual giving team. What a wonderful experience it has been working with the team and seeing the generosity of this community. As of yesterday, well, actually, as of this morning, 194 Beacon households have committed over $495,000. We have exceeded our matching goal of $50,000, earning $67,000 in increased commitments. Matched dollar for dollar, that is $134,000. I am blessed again and again by all of you. We create this community called Beacon together. You and me, us. Our mission comes alive through our relationships, our voices, our leadership, and our gifts. As we move into this time that allows us to practice intentional generosity, you will see ways to contribute to Beacon. We invite you to lean in. I know firsthand it makes a difference.
Vicki and Carolyn and Mary, who after the first service I know is now tucked outside my view, but didn't leave. Thank you so much. We are celebrating blessings this month. That's our theme for June. And certainly the gifts that you've shared this morning are an immense blessing. And there's more to come. That's the exciting thing. I know what's next. Y'all are just on suspense now, right? Right? Like, stop talking, more music. I want to give thanks as well for our worship co-leads today, for Missy, for George, for Jeannie, and for Reverend Emily, who's leading a blessing with Madan at the end, for Dr. Tully's beautiful meditation, leading us in to hear this music today differently than perhaps if we were rushing through. Speaking of rushing through, I want to tell you a story, and it takes place in 2020. It is 1 week before everything goes into lockdown in New Jersey. It is a day when Benjamin, our youngest, who is a year and a half old then, is supposed to have childcare. But for some reason that I can't remember anymore, it's lost in the haze and blur of the last couple of years, he doesn't. And my spouse, Anne Marie, has an important engagement that she can't get out of. And so guess who has childcare unexpectedly? That would be me. Now, I've got a sermon to write. I have 182 emails in my inbox, and I am stressed. And I've got that, like, tense movement going on. And I realize that we have to go to the grocery store because we're low on several things, and we're going into the weekend, and on and on and on and on. So, I get Benjamin dressed. I cram his feet into the shoes that are quickly becoming just a little too tiny for him. I put on a coat, I get him in his car seat, and as soon as we start driving, I hear the shoes come off first. We get to the grocery store, and I'm leaning in, I'm trying to put the shoes back on. As I do, he wiggles out of his coat. Needless to say, by the time I plop him in the grocery cart, I am already exhausted, right? And I'm just trying to get in and get out as fast as I can. I'm going so quickly, in fact, with the cart down past the vegetables that the little tuft of hair, you know, he's kind of got that duckling thing going on, he's little enough, is waving in the breeze as I'm pushing the cart in the grocery store. I pop a wheelie around the corner to come to the cereal aisle. I throw some things in the cart, and we're nearly done when I grab a roll of paper towels, and I hand it to Benjamin, thinking he'll throw it in the back of the cart. And then I turn around for what turns out to be a prophetic decision, and I get some tissues and toilet paper. Who knew? And as I turn back, I see Benjamin using that roll of paper towels like a pillow. And he's just playing it up, right? He's getting the attention. There's someone over on the other side of the aisle who's watching him, and I decide to snap a quick photo. Little did I know that just 1 week later, I would suit up like someone in a dystopian novel to go back to the grocery store and would find this. There were a lot of things in those first few days, weeks, and months of the pandemic that I missed as I adjusted to this sudden change. I'm sure there were things you missed too, that were all of a sudden gone, maybe ordinary things. What are some of the ordinary things you missed? Just shout them out. Faces? Hugging. Coffee shops, right? Like just going in and getting a cup of coffee. Going to the Y. Baseball. Going out to eat. What'd you say, Bill? Traveling. I presume you mean outside of your front door. Not from the living room to the bathroom, or, yeah. Correct. Jane Kenyon reminds us in her poem, Otherwise, as she recounts her day, I ate cereal, sweet milk, ripe, flawless peach. It might have been otherwise. I took the dog uphill to the birchwood. All morning I did the work I love. At noon I lay down with my mate. It might have been otherwise. I slept in a bed in a room with paintings on the walls and planned another day just like this day. But one day I know it will be otherwise. When living in the daily otherwise, at some point, I realized one of the things I missed the most, I had taken extraordinarily for granted: going to the grocery store. I missed cramming Benjamin's feet into those shoes that were always just a little too tight. I missed measuring and trying to keep him from reaching for all the yogurts and plowing them into the cart. I missed the people oohing and eyeing at him, giving a kind of affirmation and making it a little bit easier to parent a young child, to make that job just an ounce more visible. I missed the everyday, ordinary blessing of strangers being kind. I spent 2020 in mourning mostly, in addition to fear, missing things, piling the list of things I longed for. And then as the pandemic continued on, I found in 2021 that fear was so present for me. I was afraid of losing the smallest of things we'd gotten back, afraid some things would never come back. I didn't even know I loved the grocery store. But somewhere in the last few months of 2022, I'm trying to move into a different posture, to come around the edge of grief and fear, because I know that fear is not going to write a future. To come past that corner and not be afraid to love the world and ordinary blessings again. This pandemic magnified so many things that were already true: death, injustice, the finitude of life, uncertainty. And now you're wondering, can I get out of this service? Because any of these, right, beloved, on their own can produce massive anxiety, right? Has anyone here not experienced anxiety in the last 12 months? Right. Oh, well, it's not fair if you're not 12 months old. But I'm starting to wonder if, as much that these things and the awareness of them can produce massive anxiety and hypervigilance, couldn't they also still stir an awakening? A more intentional living, a mindfulness, the kind that Dr. Tooley invited us into with the meditation today. If we can move past our fears, that is, could we be intentionally more open, yes, to the sorrow and the pain, but also to the joy, to the extraordinary blessing without the grasping of being afraid that we'll lose it. Yesterday, Missy called me, and I knew that I had just sent her the readings. I thought I sent it earlier in the week, but I had a migraine and I was like not my operational self. And so I assumed when she called me, she was calling to talk about the fact that she'd just gotten the readings that I had sent her. And so I had this whole dialogue in my head. Have you ever done this? Right. And I launched into that dialogue. And somehow, Missy, being as skillful as she is, was able to interrupt my filibuster long enough to say, "Robin, that's not why I called you. But thank you. The readings are great." I called you because I've just left Lester's apartment. Lester, who is a member of our community, part of the Summit Warm Hearts program, one of our neighbors who has been without housing for 16 years. 16 years, Lester has not had a pillow to rest his head on, a place that was quiet and safe and trustworthy. But over the last 3 years, Summit Warm Hearts volunteers and coordinators and a caseworker have been building relationship with Lester, and Lester has had the tenacity to visit so many places that weren't going to be safe, that fell through, or that just were a wreck and a place that he couldn't live. And just this week, he moved into a place that he calls home. Yeah, we can applaud that. Without worrying if Lester will be there tomorrow or if it will be forever, you can feel your heart yearning like our bodies toward the sun to just take in the joy of that. Now that joy is tangled, as Reverend Gretchen Haley tells us, tangled with so much pain and suffering, right? And the fact that Lester has somewhere to live now doesn't somehow make that pain and the 16 years of not having housing right. But I think we're big enough in our beings, and Lester has taught me this, to hold the fullness of life. To let the sorrow and pain be true, and also let the joy be true. A couple days ago, a massive vulture appeared on the top of the garage over at 695 Springfield. Now, there's a photo. It's not a very big vulture from the photo, but you have to understand, this garage held 5 ambulances. So like to scale, the vulture's about as big as Benjamin, my son is now, right? And he's 4. And I've been trying to live into this new 2022 posture of let the blessings, accept them without trying to hold on to them. Now, vultures are interesting, right? Like when I said vulture, you would have had a different reaction if I said like heron, right? Yeah, you just smiled. I can see in your eyes. You say vulture, people are kind of like, ooh. Because they eat dead things, right? And that's kind of gross. But in symbology, vultures are guardians. They're purifiers because they consume death. Yee. So knowing a little bit about this, I got curious. And then I thought to myself, well, what if this is like the grocery store? And what if this is the last time I'm going to see a vulture? So I decided to follow him as he wound his way around the back of the garage. This garage that I never go near, I think of as kind of dilapidated, and I stay away from. And when I followed him around the side of the garage, I found a clearing. And there was light hitting this tree, just like almost like one of those moments, right? So I went up to the tree, and I noticed that when I looked at this tree that had been there for some time clearly, that inside the tree was a really interesting shape. And as I got closer, I realized it also looked like a vulture in its own little way. So I stood there in the clearing, forest, mythical place for a moment. And I heard the birds around me. I heard some rustling. I noticed some poison ivy. And then I looked up. And that's when everything really came together. I was standing under this beautiful canopy of trees, and I could feel in my body this desire to like hold this moment forever. Do you have those moments where you're like, I just want it to stay like this, right here forever? And as soon as you start grasping, you're losing it, right? And I said, no. It's 2022. We've got a different posture, Robin. So I took in a deep breath and studied each leaf. Still feeling that itch to hold the moment forever. Still being afraid it would all be plowed or taken away somehow. But I just watched each leaf. Let them go. Realizing that if I never see another tree again, I saw this one. I was there. Sometimes I feel like a little kid in kindergarten or preschool, so excited by the sheer blessing of the world that I run to it fiercely like this, and you're not sure if I'm going to hug you or bite you. We all know that kid, right? I'm trying to learn how to unclench the jaw a little. And instead of that intense desire to take hold and keep everything just as it is so that we don't lose one more thing, or instead of the desire to never be too happy because we might lose it, again. One of our members from our first service said that she was raised with the motto, don't be too happy, you don't know what's going to happen next. I think it should be extraordinarily happy because you don't know what's going to happen next. Isn't that a sufficient blessing? If even for a moment we can swim in a forest bath beneath a canopy of trees, or pause in the store with feet crammed into shoes that are too tight, and grab a roll of paper towels and strike a pose while we are here. Blessed, beloved, because after all, we're still here. And isn't that worth some celebration? I think it is. Can you believe that? Can you help me live that? Can we be brave enough to love the world again? So may we be blessed. So are we blessed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that. Our closing blessing is written by Cricket Hall, and I'm going to invite you all to be a part of this blessing because this is not a blessing you sit to. This is a blessing in which you embody. So if you are able to, I invite you to rise, lift yourself up, feel the chair, and then maybe put a hand on your heart to offer yourself this blessing, and then reach out another hand to offer the world the blessing. Or the organ, Rich. Or the organ.
May the drag stage rise to meet you.
Amen, right? Amen. May the world rise to accept and embrace you.
May the rainbow of love enfold you.
May your fluidity never be hindered.
May your pronouns always be supported and your dead name forgotten.
May those you invite into your life remain loyal.
May your chosen family lift you up and catch you when you need it.
May you be able to catch others when they need it.
May you remember sensitivity is not weakness.
And instead, a great strength welling up inside you.
And until we meet again,
may you remember that you are loved and you
are divine.
Amen. Please be seated for our amazing postlude.
May the work I've done speak for me. May the work I've done and I lay down this heavy load. May the work I've done speak for me. Let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the life I've lived speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down this heavy load, let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the friends I've made speak for me. Let the friends I've made speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down this heavy load, let the friends I made speak for me. Let the love I've shared speak for me. Let the love I've shared speak for me. When I come to the end of this road and I lay down this heavy load, let the life I've lived speak for me. Let the friends I've made speak for me. Let the love I've shared